We're grateful for your time this evening. Let's get straight into the stories for the prime. The outgoing President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo is set to deliver his final State of the Nation's address. He will address the nation from Parliament House on Friday, January 3, 2025, ahead of the dissolution of the 8th Parliament. The President is expected to provide an update on the current state of the nation, touching on various sectors of the economy before handing over office to the newly elected President, John Dramani Mahama. Meanwhile, the 8th Parliament will be dissolved on the 9th of Monday, January 6, to make way for the inauguration of the 9th Parliament on the same day.
Today, factories and even markets were closed. The hospitality industry was brought to its knees. Our economy, like much of the rest of the world, went into a tailspin. We took many decisions and we did many things which, according to the science, were the most reliable and trusted ways to save lives and livelihoods at the time, which may look strange and unnecessary today, but that is from the safe perspective of not waking up to check on the COVID-19 infection or death rate. Indeed, there were some who suggested that we cancel the national identification registration exercise and even postpone the 2020 general election.
When he delivered the 2023 State of the Nation's address. Away from that, the New Patriotic Party has finalized its leadership appointments for the Minority Caucus in the 9th Parliament after a National Council meeting of the party. The NPP National Council on Thursday, December 2, announced Alexander Afenyo-Markin, Member of Parliament for Ofutu, as the minority leader. Patricia Appiagyei, representing Asokwa constituency, has been named Deputy Minority Leader, while Frank Anodompre, the MP for Nsoam Adwo-Edwiri, takes up the role of Chief Whip. Additionally, Habib Idrisu of Tolon and Davis Opoku Ansan OPK of Mpraeso have been designated as First Deputy Whip and Second Deputy Whip, respectively. These appointments come as the NPP transitions to its new role in the minority following the 2024 general elections. These are the new MPs, the new constitution of MPs as minority caucus leadership for the 9th Parliament. The NPP will be assuming a new position as minority in Parliament, and they will be led or headed by Alexander Afenyo-Markin, who is the MP for Ofutu constituency. He will be deputized by Patricia Appiagyei, MP for Asokwa constituency. Frank Anodompre will be the minority chief whip. He is the MP for Nsoam Adwo-Edwiri, and first deputy minority whip will be Habib Idrisu, MP for Tolon constituency, whilst David Opoku, MP for Mpraeso constituency, will assume the role as second deputy minority whip. These will be the leadership of the minority in Parliament as we enter into the 9th Parliament. Still on the NPP in Parliament, Afenyo-Markin, speaking to the media after his confirmation, assured working hard to hold the next NDC government accountable.
The party will issue an official statement, but all can I say is that I thank the National Council for the trust reposed in me, the decision to confirm me to lead my side in Parliament, and I can promise them one thing: hard work, hard work, hard work. May God be my guide. Thank you. The party will issue an official statement, but all can I say is that I thank the National Council for the trust reposed in me, the decision to confirm me to lead my side in Parliament, and I can promise them one thing: hard work, hard work, hard work. May God be my guide. Thank you. The party will issue an official statement, but all can I say is that I thank the National Council.
Alexander Afenyo-Markin, who says he thanks God for this opportunity to serve as minority leader for the NPP in the next Parliament. You know that this 8th Parliament, which is ending, has been a very interesting one. We will see how the 9th Parliament will be. But joining us on the line is Dr. Palgrave Boakye Dankwa, he is government spokesperson on security and governance. Good evening, Dr. Boakye Danko, and a happy new year to you.
A very good evening to you, and a very happy new year to you as well.
Well, first of all, the president is expected to give his last address to the nation tomorrow. 8 years in office. It's been quite a long time and a tenure in office, greeted by many ups and downs. Will you say that Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, His Excellency, delivered to the expectations of the Ghanaian people?
Well, very good evening to you and to your Ghanaian people, and to state that President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo brings his tenure to an end in the next few days, especially when he closes Parliament tomorrow. And yes, I mean, to ask the question whether the president fulfilled his mandate to the Ghanaian people is an excellent yes. The campaign that he made in 2020 election and how he excellently delivered those promises, even beyond what he had promised. I mean, I clearly would say that President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has been an excellent president in this Fourth Republic, especially because of the challenges that he went through and how he was able to surmount those challenges. You can call a leader only when the leader has triumphed and succeeded in overcoming challenges. And I see that President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has been able to be that leader.
Well, if he has indeed been the leader of the country, some say that then why hasn't the NPP been given another chance to continue what the president has done, the good work he has done?
Well, I think that governance is entirely very different from electioneering and politics. Very clearly, the Ghanaian people, President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo didn't stand for an election. It was Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party, who stood. The Ghanaian people stated that not this time, and they voted for John Dramani Mahama. I think that you must decouple the electioneering politics from the governance of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. They are not two things that you can tie in, because President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo did not stand an election.
So, as he delivers his final State of the Nation's address, this will be the last time he will be addressing us in the capacity of president. What do you think the Ghanaian people will be remembering Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo for? If there were two things to remember him for, what will be those two things?
Well, key for me would be President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's free senior high school in terms of education, top-notch STEM, introduction of STEM, TVET and all the models that he was able to bring in. And then for me, the second would be his industrialization agenda and drive. I mean, that comes with the assembling of plans, the one district, one factory, the drone digitalization. And these are two legs that President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's legacy will stand upon. And I mean, I congratulate President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo for such an excellent leadership over the past 8 years and 4 years now, and wish him the best in his future endeavors.
Well, since we are speaking about the good side, if you were to say that the government could have done some things differently from than what they did in Parliament, in government, what would you say those two things would have been?
Well, I'm not sure this will be the forum for that. I'm not sure if this will be the forum for me to critique a government that I served very diligently. And so maybe at another forum we would be able to
we'll do well to
of some of that things. Absolutely.
Okay, we'll do well to make sure that we have another interview on that. But let's move to Parliament. Afenyo Markin has been declared that he will be the leader of the NPP in the 9th Parliament. What informed the decision of this National Council? As his leadership style is one that many critiqued. However, the NPP again have acclaimed him to lead the charge for the party in Parliament.
Why do you change a leader when the leader is doing well? I mean, the Honorable Alexander Afenyo Markin has been such an excellent majority leader. He's going into a minority leader in the 9th Parliament. I mean, I feel that it's one of the best decisions that the National Council has made. We would wish him the best together with the entire leadership at the Minority Caucus. Definitely is going to be a very engaging minority because of the numbers that we have and even the numbers that the majority has. You need someone who understands Parliament, someone who has been in Parliament for a very long time, someone who is respected by both sides of the House, someone who understands parliamentary regiments, someone who can be able to advocate a lot more of what the Ghanaian people want to see in Parliament. then I'm very certain that the majority is also going to change their leadership. And so you need an old block on the team. And I think that Afenyomarkin is the right person to continue his leadership from majority to minority.
We know that we understand the NPP is looking, not just looking at this parliament, but the next parliament, 10th parliament, and in hopes get back the governance of the country back into the hands of NPP. With Afenyomarkin leading the charge, do you believe that by the end of this 9th parliament we will be entering, NPP would have consolidated some gains?
Well, I think that a lot of our consolations and will not come from Parliament. It's going to come from our entire rank and file of the party. We're going to have a lot of reforms and a lot of restructuring. And I believe that the new team that is going to be put in place by elections, as we hold, would be people that will be able to bring us back into office. Parliament is just a microcosm of what would happen. And so we would wish the Honorable Afenyomarkin the best. I believe that he would be able to lead the affairs very well, stay affairs very well, put the caucus together, and be able to advance a very credible, responsible opposition in Parliament in terms of minority.
We are grateful for your time this evening, Dr. Boakye Danquah.
I'm very grateful for the opportunity.
Dr. Palgrave Boakye Danquah is government spokesperson on security and governance. Away from the NPP, but still in Parliament, Member of Parliament for Banda, Ahmed Ibrahim, has expressed the support for Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbin as the Speaker of Parliament for the 9th Parliament. Speaking to the press, he emphasized that the 9th Parliament requires a leader who can perform their duties effectively and with confidence. He highlighted Speaker Bagbin's extensive experience in parliamentary leadership, having served as Majority Leader, Deputy Speaker of Parliament, and currently the Speaker of Parliament for the 8th Parliament. Ibrahim believes that Bagbin is the ideal candidate to lead the 9th Parliament.
When he was a leader in this house, Nana Akufo-Addo was Foreign Affairs Minister. John Mahama was spokesperson for communication. Asidu Nketia was chairman for energy. So all the political gurus you have in this country were under him. And the kind of parliament that we have now, you need a statesman who will be able to look into the eyes of the president and tell him, Mr. President, this will not work. This will work. When we needed somebody to look into the eyes of Akufo-Addo and tell him the truth, nobody. It was Alban Bagbin who told him that, oh, enough of what you are doing. And that's what has brought us to where we are. So clearly, we don't need a rubber stamp parliament. You need a critical brain to be able to look into the eyes of whoever, whether it's me or it's you. That, oh, enough of this, we can't do this, we can't do this. And that person must do it with justifiable reasons. So whether you go, I'm a minority leader, he's been minority leader before. As a majority leader, he's been majority leader before. As a deputy speaker, he's been deputy speaker before. As a speaker, he's been speaker before. So if you have such a person, why will you put in aside, say that you are going to look for another person? Why? So whether you go, I'm a minority leader, he's been minority leader before. As a majority leader, he's been majority leader before. As a deputy speaker, he's been deputy speaker before. As a speaker, he's been speaker before. Yeah.
In Parliament, in a press briefing held today, officials have revealed that in-person registration for members of Parliament-elect commenced today, January 2, and will continue until January 5 from 10 a.m. at the Visitor Centre on the Parliament's premises. This is in preparation for the dissolution of the 8th Parliament, the inauguration of the 9th Parliament, and the swearing-in of the President-elect. Although online registration for MPs elect has already been completed, in-person biometric registration remains mandatory.
We've already commenced. The first one is the registration, which we have started. We are having an online registration, and then once that is completed, the members of Parliament elects would come in person for their biometric data to be captured. And so the in-person registration will start today, which is 2nd, to the 5th of January. And the time we've given is 10 a.m. The venue is the Visitor Centre, which is just across where some of the car park is. We've already commenced. The first one is the registration, which we have started. We are having an online registration, and then once that is completed, the members of Parliament elects would come in person for their biometric data to be captured. And so the in-person registration will start today, which is 2nd, to the 5th of January. And the time we've given is 10 a.m. The venue is the Visitor Center, which is...
So, on stories from Parliament, Ghana's Parliament has taken a significant step towards safeguarding the environment by passing the Environmental Protection Bill. This legislation aims to address pressing environmental issues and promote sustainable development across the nation. The bill, which had been under discussion for several months, received overwhelming support from both sides of the political divide. Lawmakers emphasized the importance of protecting Ghana's natural resources and ensuring a healthier environment for future generations. During the parliamentary session on Thursday, January 2, the second Deputy Speaker, Andrew Esiama, said, "Honorable members, the Environmental Protection Bill 2024 is now read for the 3rd time and passed. The Environmental Protection Bill includes provisions for stricter regulations on industrial emissions, waste management, and deforestation. It also outlines measures to promote renewable energy sources and encourage eco-friendly practices among businesses and individuals."
Members, I will now put the question if there's no contribution. So all those in favor that motion listed 14 be adopted, say aye. All those against, say no. Honorable members, the ayes have it. The motion, yes, table. Honorable members, the ayes have it. The motion is adopted.
An act to amend and consolidate laws relating to environmental protection, establish the Environmental Protection Authority to regulate and protect the environment, provide for pesticide control and regulation, provide for the control, management, and disposal of hazardous waste and electrical and electronic waste, provide for the coordination of climate change responses, and for related matters.
Honorable members, the Environmental Protection Bill 2024 is now read the 3rd time and passed.
Joining us on the line for a conversation on this is the Executive Director for Eco-Conscious Citizens, Awula Sewa. Good evening, Awula, and a Happy New Year to you.
Good evening. Happy New Year to you and your listeners.
It's great to speak with you again, Awula. The Parliament has passed this bill, Environmental Protection Bill. As eco-conscious citizens, how do you receive this?
Well, what we'll say is that our problem in Ghana has not been the absence of laws. Our problem has been enforcement of existing laws and regulations. Even with the laws that the EPA currently has, is it enforcing them? For example, we have environmental impact assessments. Are they carried out? For example, before you start an establishment that is going to cause noise pollution, there's supposed to be an environmental assessment. Most people don't bother with that and cause noise pollution. You report it to the EPA and the noise is ongoing. So our question is that it's all very well and good. Great, this has been passed, fantastic. But if even the current laws, you don't enforce them, noise pollution, open fires, what difference will more regulations do? That is the question that one needs to ask.
Beyond, well, yes, what difference then does more regulations do? But eco-conscious citizens, you have been also advocating for various interventions in our environmental space. Now that this law has been passed, it means that there is something that it will prefer for Ghanaians. From where you stand, how would you advise policymakers and those who should be executing these laws on what to do to make sure that we gain the most out of all of this?
What I would say is that if we want a clean, green, and healthy environment, we should not be allergic to enforcing laws. Our problem right now, as I keep on saying, is enforcement. We have so many laws which, even without passing this current one, we should have a clean and green and healthy environment. But we don't have it. Why? Because the current laws are not being enforced. If we're not going to change our nature, we're going to continue being allergic to enforcement. And I'm afraid it's not going to make any difference. What we are also very interested in, and in fact more interested in, is the repeal of the perverse LI 2462, which is allowing for mining in forest reserves, including globally significant biodiversity area. That is what should be repealed as soon as possible. And in fact, there's nothing stopping the next administration from repealing it within the first 10 days of office, because even the NPP has said they would support it, and the president is supposed to have directed that it was laid before Parliament. So within the next 10 days, after the new government, the new Parliament, the 9th Parliament comes, there should be no reason why LI 2462 should not be repealed. So I'm not saying that this law is not a good one. All I'm saying is that that is not our problem. Our problem is the unwillingness to enforce laws and regulations. During this Christmas, we received so many calls with people suffering from excessive noise pollution. This is something the EPA knows, that every Christmas there's excessive noise. So what stopped them from having an active number where you could call where people were going way, way beyond the permitted decibel levels? They had a press release, there was a number. People called it, I called it myself, and it says out of coverage. So what was the purpose of having that number when we know that every year, it's not something that's a surprise. We know that there's going to be noise pollution, which is disturbing the health of so many people. And yet, with the current laws that allow you to have a preventative measures and also to stop it, you don't. So I'm not impressed with this new bill that has been passed, because if we don't change our nature of being unwilling to enforce laws, it's not going to advance us in any way.
Aula, as part of the law, it provides provisions for waste management. When you go across the city, at least the city of Accra, our gutters are choked, waste all over in bus stations. You can see a lot of waste littered about, and so much so that it is becoming like the norm. As eco-conscious citizens, what would you be doing, engaging with the necessary bodies to make sure that our roads, our environment is rid of this filth?
You see, again, we come back to enforcement. First of all, what is stopping us in the 21st century from segregating our rubbish? You have one place for plastics, one place for cans, one place for kitchen waste, which can be used as compost, for leaves and things like that. What is stopping us from doing it? We are not doing it. As eco-conscious citizens, we have two receptacles, one in Adenta Municipal Assembly and one in Ladade Kotopon Municipal Assembly. You get the plastic containers get full very quickly. We call CESA recycling. They come and collect it. But you still see people dropping plastics in the gutters and things. What is stopping you from having on-the-spot fines? And then again, we have our cities littered with kiosks. People are living in these kiosks. We know very well that they have no places of convenience. Where do they ease themselves? In plastic bags, and they throw it all over the place. The laws don't permit it. We don't need this new law. The current laws prevent it. We're not enforcing them. So my problem is that we'll keep on having a dirty city. The president said he wanted Accra to be the cleanest city, not even in Ghana, but in Africa. How is that going to happen when we refuse to enforce laws and regulations? We can have on-the-spot fines. You know, in our parents' days, we had the town council. They used to come around. What is stopping us from doing that? Training people, you come around, you see litter, you see dustbins that are flowing, you find people. In the meantime, you make sure that you are provided the necessary bins. Our problems can be solved if there's the will to solve them. It's not a question of keeping on passing legislation. It's a question of enforcing the current one. You can have special courts that deal with sanitation cases. We can solve the problem yesterday if the will is there. I'm afraid it's not there. We give ourselves excuses. Oh, if we had this law. Oh, if we had this law. But if you're not prepared to enforce it, what's the point?
Aula, we are most grateful for your time this evening. We'll come back for more conversations.
Thank you very much.
Aula Sewa is the Executive Director for Eco-Conscious Citizens. Away from that, Kate Ado, the Coordinating Director of Public Affairs in Parliament, has called on all journalists and individuals covering the swearing-in of President-elect John Dramani Mahama on January 7, 2024 to ensure they are properly accredited and display the accreditation tags visibly. In a press briefing today, she emphasized that anyone without visible accreditation will be denied access to the event spaces. She also reminded journalists to uphold professional ethics while carrying out their duties.
First of all, let me reiterate that anybody covering any event here without a conspicuous display of your tag accreditation will not be allowed into any of the spaces. And the Marshal this morning has already started enforcing that. So please, colleagues, help us to help you. Let us all be properly accredited and to show our accreditation. Point number one. Point number two, we know the ethics that cover journalism and broadcast journalism and even print journalism. I beg you, let's please adhere to those principles. Truthfulness, timeliness, adequacy of information, all those things are relevant. But also, this is a house of rules and regulations. Let us abide by those to avoid the bottlenecks that come with the collaboration between security.
Still on the presidential inauguration, the Ministry of National Security has issued a directive prohibiting the operation of drones during the presidential inaugural ceremony scheduled for January 7, 2025. The restriction will be strictly enforced at the Black Star Square and surrounding areas, ensuring the safety and security of dignitaries, guests, and the public. In a statement issued on Thursday, January 2, the ministry said the directive applies to all types of drones, including recreational and commercial devices. This measure is part of heightened security protocols for the high-profile event, which will be attended by national and international figures. The statement said the ministry stated that the restriction is essential to maintain a secure environment during the inauguration and appealed to drone operators to respect the directive and refrain from flying drones in restricted areas on the day of the event. The ministry reassured the public of its commitment to providing a safe and secure atmosphere for the inauguration and urged all citizens to cooperate fully. Well, let's take a quick break. We'll be back with some business stories. You're welcome back. Now into business. The Minister of Finance, Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam, has submitted the expenditure in advance of appropriation for the period January to March 2025 to Parliament. The proposed 2025 mini budget amounting to 68.1 billion Ghana cedis is intended to cover essential government expenses during the first quarter of the year. This provision ensures continuity of operations pending the presentation of a full budget by the incoming administration, which will govern for the remainder of 2025. Key areas expected to benefit from the allocation include salaries of public sector workers, statutory payments, critical infrastructure maintenance, and funding for social intervention programs. Joining us on the line is Professor Patrick Esuming for a conversation. Good evening, Prof, and a Happy New Year to you.
Good evening, and good evening to viewers. Happy New Year, many happy returns.
Prof, finally, the Minister went to Parliament and has submitted the mini budget. What do you make of the budgeted amount?
Well, I haven't seen much detail by way of breakdown, but the number that they are giving, the 68.1 billion, is just about a quarter of what you expect based on the projection from last year. You know, when last year's budget was presented, and also within the IMF program, it includes a projection for the year 2025. And the projected expenditure for 2025 is about 288 billion. So when you divide it into 4, because this is expenditure for the first quarter, which is a quarter of the year. So it's just about in line, about 24% or so. So I think in terms of the block amount, it seems like it's largely consistent with what has been projected for the year 2025.
As we head into a new government, which will also set up its own finance ministry with a new minister and all, what are some of the projections you will be making into the new government, and what are some of your expectations from them?
Well, I mean, the new government has a big task on its hand. The finance ministry will have a bigger task. We've already heard during the campaign that they want to remove some of the taxes. So when they do that, they have to find alternative ways to raise revenue. There are many alternative ways to raise revenue, but they have to choose the path. And then also the economy, in spite of the fact that the GDP number says it's been doing better than expected in 2024, we know the economy is still in bad shape. The finances of the country are not in great shape. So I think there's a lot of work to do. But we won't see anything until probably from the second quarter, because the first quarter will be used to put the team together, getting the necessary approvals, going through the vetting processes, and then assembling the team. So I think it's really from the second quarter, when the budget is ready towards the end of the first quarter, that we really begin to see the specific plans. But what I expect them to do is to tackle the economy, especially the agri sector, and then the fiscal side, the government finances, and then the energy sector, which the incoming administration has already signaled that it will be a big part of its focus.
Prof, we will look forward to more conversations on the economy of the country as we are entering into a new government. Thank you for your time this evening.
You are welcome.
Professor Patrick Esuming is an economist at the University of Ghana Business School. Still in business, banking consultant Dr. Richmond Etuahene has called on incoming President John Dramani Mahama to establish a remittance unit within the central bank to better track Ghana's foreign remittances. Dr. Etuahene highlighted that while remittance figures for the country are substantial, a significant portion, nearly half, does not pass through the formal banking sector. He pointed out that strengthening this system could reduce Ghana's dependence on external borrowing from institutions like the World Bank and the IMF. Dr. Etuahene explained that in 2023, the World Bank reported $4.7 billion in remittances to Ghana, but only $2.8 billion was tracked through the banking system, leaving $1.9 billion unaccounted for. He emphasized that improving remittance tracking could help stabilize the Ghanaian cedi and reduce inflation. In addition to focusing on remittances, Dr. Etuahene urged President Mahama to assemble a team of technocrats to address the country's growing public debt, particularly the $31 million owed to contractors and liabilities in the energy sector. And that's all for business this evening. Let's head straight into more local stories. President-elect John Dramani Mahama has pledged to rectify the shortcomings of the outgoing Akufo-Addo administration and steer Ghana towards transparency and fiscal discipline. In his New Year address for 2025, John Dramani Mahama emphasized his commitment to tackling corruption and curbing excessive government spending. He assured Ghanaians of his resolve to restore integrity and effectiveness in governance. The president-elect reaffirmed his commitment to establishing a streamlined and effective government that is attuned to the aspirations of Ghanaians.
Government responsive to your aspirations as a proud Ghanaian. We will work tirelessly to correct the outgoing administration's many wrongs, tackle corruption with dogged determination, and reduce excessive government expenditures. Each citizen's voice will be heard, and together we'll build a Ghana that reflects our collective hopes and
Away from that, Vincent Oponwa Samoy, ranking member of the Works and Housing Committee of Parliament, has stated that the incoming NDC government will review the contracts awarded to the Kwam LMI Consortium for the Saglemi Affordable Housing Project. Speaking to the press during a visit to the site, the Doma West MP emphasized that the committee is not familiar with the terms of the contract. The Works and Housing Committee was at Saglemi conducting a site assessment and reviewing drafts of the affordable housing project following a recent fire outbreak.
Quality of work that was handed over to MPP administration in 2017. We can't say same now. A review is very important. You know, once NDC we mention review, MPP will tell you, oh, yeah, we don't want to cancel it. But you all know review is not cancelling. At least we look at the pros and cons of the agreement, and if it will kneel to the benefit of the public, we'll go ahead and we execute it. This government has also started a lot of these projects all over the place, and I'm only hopeful that our administration will not allow those structures to.
The Omanhene of New Drabin traditional area, Dasibren Nana Kweku Boateng III, has stated that the Traditional Council of New Drabin has put in preparation to support and finance environmentally friendly initiatives within the area. Speaking at a dinner and fundraising ceremony for the establishment of the Koforidua Rural Bank PLC over the weekend in Koforidua, Nana Kweku Boateng III highlighted that the council will focus on renewable energy, waste recycling, energy efficiency, and eco-friendly projects. There's more in this report.
Dasibren Nana Kweku Boateng III stated that the bank seeks to act as catalyst for community development, focusing on key areas essential to the collective future of the people of New Drabin.
The Koforidua Rural Bank will prioritize environmentally friendly projects such as renewable energy, energy efficiency, waste recycling, as well as eco-friendly businesses. By financing sustainable initiatives, we aim to contribute to environmental conservation, reduction of carbon dioxide emissions.
The Omahine also revealed that the bank will provide women-focused financial product, entrepreneurial training, and access to credit facilities to empower women to succeed in business and leadership roles.
Women are central to community development, and empowering them economically will create ripple effects of progress. The bank will offer women specific financial products, entrepreneurial training, and access to credit facilities, enabling them.
Now into some education-related stories. The Colleges of Education Teachers Association of Ghana, CTAG, has officially begun an indefinite strike starting today, January 2, 2025. The action comes after months of failed negotiations with the government and the National Labour Commission, particularly over unpaid compensation and the non-implementation of arbitration awards. In an exclusive interview with ABC News GH, Council member Isaiah Dukurong stated that over 2,000 members are united in their cause and emphasized that their fight is ultimately for the benefit of students. He added that the strike will continue until the employer addresses their needs and resolves the outstanding issues.
But the problem can only be solved when the employer did what is needful. Because when you look at this, my sister, we started this particular problem since 2022. We struggled up to we took ourselves and then the employer to National Labour Commission. And then the National Labour Commission ruled in favor of CTAG. Instead of them to implement the National Labour Commission ruling, up to 20 months now, more than 20 months, my dear sister, the award has not been implemented. We engaged them several times. Let me tell you emphatically that we had about 44 meetings with them since 2022 up to now. My sister, one meeting can solve a problem. Look at 44 meetings. And they are all on records, letters of invitations. I'm telling you. So all this.
To what happened earlier today, a devastating fire swept through Accra's Kantamanto market in the early hours of January 2, 2025, ravaging over 100 structures to ashes. The Ghana National Fire Service successfully contained the blaze after a grueling 6-hour operation, reporting no injuries or fatalities. Speaking to ABC News GH, Public Relations Officer DO2 Desmond Aka confirmed that investigations are underway to determine the cause of the inferno, which was excavated by dry weather and the wooden structures of the market.
Tell you that now we've been able to subdue the fire which started in the early hours of this morning that has ravaged over 100 structures within the Kantamanto area. We've been able to subdue it. Currently what we are doing is doing what we call overhaul to ensure that all the other remaining pockets of fire are dealt with. They are fully dealt with. As it stands now, we've not recorded any casualty. We've not recorded any civilian nor firefighter injuries or deaths or fatalities. So that is this. We have begun with our investigations, and we would want to leverage on all the possible or available resources that are at our disposal to be able to come up with the actual cause of fire. You know, when situations like this happen, it is important that you identify the exact source of fire or the origin of fire. Once you are able to determine the origin of fire.
Kantamanto Blaze Public Relations Officer DO2 Desmond Aka also commended the firefighters' efforts but highlighted challenges including limited access to the fire's origin. He urged market management to ensure better planning and proper demarcation of escape routes to prevent further tragedies.
this time round, I think we need to do a bit more. We need the market managers would have to be proactive and be assertive this time round to ensure that after this fire management, they would put in measures to ensure that there are properly demarcated alleys and lanes to serve as access routes or asset points to facilitate escape. If this fire had happened in the daytime, it would have been very difficult for us to even evacuate the traders and even the users or the beneficiaries of.
Away from that, Councillor Frank Adofoli has shared practical tips to be considered in crafting realistic and achievable goals for 2025. In an interview on ABC in the morning in relation to the challenges many face in sticking to their New Year's resolutions, Councillor Adofoli noted the importance of setting resolutions that are specific, measurable and realistic. He noted that while the start of the year inspires optimism and ambition, unrealistic goals often lead to frustration and eventual abandonment. He suggested breaking down major goals into smaller, actionable steps, enabling individuals to track their progress throughout the year. Adofoli also encouraged people to celebrate small wins as they serve as motivation for long-term commitment.
What does it mean to you? Are they something very important to you, very meaningful to you? If you put it on a scale of 1 to 10, what will it be? If it is high, from 7, 8, 9, 10, I mean, it is very important to you. You need to make it a priority. So look at your time. That's one time when we set resolution, we are not looking at the time that we have. We all have 24 hours. We use part of them to sleep, part to go to work. How much of the time that is free you want to dedicate to this? If you don't have enough time, then I plead with you, you have to come down with your objectives. If the objectives are higher than the resources you have, you end up not achieving them. So if you want activities that you want to do day in, day out, or actions you want to take, and that action requires 3 hours, and you only have 2 hours to give, then I believe you have to come down or extend the time. Instead of 1 year, we have to go for 2 years, and I'm going to do it an hour and a half continuously to be able to achieve that. So let's look at our resources. If you want to go to school, and I don't have the time.
Some parliament-related stories. Communications Officer for Parliamentary Network Africa, Clement Akolo, has expressed concerns about the recommendation by the Constitutional Review Consultative Committee to cap Parliament seats at 277, describing the move as not ideal for the nation's democratic and developmental aspirations. His comments come in the wake of the CRCC submission of its report to President Akufo-Addo recommending a cap on the number of MPs in Parliament to 277. Speaking on ABC in the morning, Akolo highlighted that the measure, which aims to address the growing size of Parliament and reduce administrative costs, fails to account for critical demographic and developmental factors. He argued that such a cap could compromise the principle of fair representation, particularly in rapidly growing and diverse constituencies.
In time, Parliament must be capped, especially looking at our nation and the the population and all that, our resources and all that. So at a point in time, it must be capped. But I'm not too sure whether the 277 is the right cap. I'm saying that based on the fact that there are certain things that must be shaped when it comes to our parliamentary representation. For instance, when it comes to affirmative action, women representation and all that, we are thinking that we must find innovative ways of making sure that the women representation is put at a particular point that we are comfortable with, and then we'll be able to meet up the world standard. And we are thinking that maybe the remaining seats, if we are capping it at 277 or maybe 280 or maximum 300, how do we make sure that the remaining seats that in future we may be leaving, those ones will be used appropriately to address the gender issues and then the affirmative action issues and all that. Then when we are capping, we know that we have done representation at all levels. And I would think that there must be some further consultation on that particular point so that we will close the deal.
Well, and that's all for our local stories. Let's take some sports. Former Black Stars captain Asamoah Gyan has criticized persons who view him and fellow former captain Andre Dede Ayew as rivals or believe they are at odds with each other. He believes Andre's perceptions are influenced by those around him. In a recent Instagram live session, he dismissed claims of any rift between them, attributing any misunderstanding to the influence of people in Andre's circle. He further stated that he and Andre is not the type who engages in such behavior, but some Ghanaians who enjoy fueling drama and negativity are the ones perpetuating this notion of rivalry.
Me too. You say what? I talk about Andre. Andre is a good person. When he's playing, he's passionate. Also, nkofo kika nsem kire no. Oh wait, to me. Oh wait. I know. Are you okay? Because today I'm in my element. Are you okay? So who say you people? Muna ya mudi problem yebano. I've told you, it's a fact. So are you okay? What you want to know about me and Andre? Andre, when he see me, he had that genuine love inside. Genuine love inside. But because he's been brainwashed, because people want to gain from them. Oh, Asamoah, what you see? You can do it, you can do it. Hey! That is what people think. And that has brought those so-called rivalry.
That's all for sports. Up next, international news. Zimbabwe's President Emmerson Mnangagwa has approved a law that abolishes the death penalty in the Southern African state with immediate effect. Mnangagwa's move comes after Zimbabwe's parliament voted earlier in December to scrap the death penalty. Zimbabwe last carried out an execution by hanging in 2005, but its courts continued to hand down the death sentence for serious crimes like murder. About 60 people were on death row at the end of 2023, according to Amnesty. President Mnangagwa faced the death penalty himself in the 1960s during Zimbabwe's War of Independence. Other African countries such as Kenya, Liberia, and Ghana have also recently taken positive steps towards abolishing capital punishment, but are yet to pass it into law, according to the group, which campaigns against the death penalty. That's all for some international news. Let's take entertainment. Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia ushered in the new year with a heartwarming gesture as he spent time with residents of the Weija Leprosarium on January 1, 2025. The visit was part of his commitment to fostering inclusivity and supporting vulnerable communities across the country. Dr. Bawumia, accompanied by his wife Samira Bawumia and a team of officials, shared moments of joy with the residents as he distributed food items and other essential supplies to the leprosarium, which houses individuals affected by leprosy and provides them with care and support. The Vice President, who is also a patron of the Weija Leprosarium, used the occasion to highlight the need for greater public awareness about leprosy. And on that note, we end ABC Prime this evening. But before we go, a recap of our headlines. President Akufo-Addo's time to officially hand over power to the next NDC government is ticking as he prepares to deliver his last State of the Nation's address tomorrow, January 3, 2025. Legislation to address pressing environmental issues and safeguard our lands has been passed by Parliament. The strategy and dynamism to hold the supermajority caucus of the NDC has been settled as the NPP selects Afenyo-Markin and others to lead the charge. In business, Finance Minister has finally presented a 68